I would just like to begin by saying that I was pleased with the governor's tone. I was appreciative of the fact that he is choosing to start his final year in office, and it's my final year as well, with a tone that I think sent a signal of cooperation between our both branches of government, and his acknowledgement of what we have been able to accomplish, especially in this last year and a half with a record deficit, our historic water deal, acknowledging education reform, which I know will be passing the Senate later on this afternoon. I was happy to see him pledge not to cut education or higher education, K through 12 or higher education. In fact, it would have been a bit of a contradiction to do that to begin this year, given that we will be submitting our application for Race to the Top next week, and one of the fundamental requirements of that application is that we have a commitment to education and supporting education funding. He talked about job training and putting $500 million into job training. I think that that's all well and good. One thing I would say, though, is that I think our first order of business needs to be restoring funding to job training funds that we cut last year, and so that those 40,000 mothers of whom had their job training cut last year actually have that funding restored. Also, I think we need to acknowledge that in our state we have tens of thousands of highly skilled, highly trained workers that need to go back to work in their field. And so job training is fine, but you know, I appreciate his commitment to jobs, but I do think there's other things that we can do. I personally like the home buyer tax credit. I think that was a very successful program. I would like to see that expanded, but I don't think that this year is the year to expand tax credits, frankly. I do want to look forward to moving a piece of legislation that I'm doing in conjunction with my mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, that will help more families avoid foreclosure, that helps stabilize our housing market, and I believe that that's a win for the economy and for the budget. I think, frankly, that we need to look back at some of the tax breaks that we gave last year and think about rolling those back versus coming up with additional tax breaks, such as the sales tax break that he mentioned for green technology. I was delighted to hear him talk about the imbalance in spending between prisons and education. However, I do not believe at all that privatizing prisons is the way to do that. I think we need to look at why California incarcerates more people than any other state. We need to look at ways to reduce recidivism, and we certainly need to look at sentencing reform. I think that's the way we reduce spending in corrections. And I think if there was any one area of his speech that I was just frankly disappointed in, and that was his call for our congressional delegation to vote against health care reform. I think that's a premature call. I am so excited that on a national level we are on the verge of a historic piece of legislation that is going to expand health care to millions of people, is going to do away with pre-existing conditions being a reason to not provide insurance, the permanent cap on insurance. So I think that we're on the verge of something tremendous, and everyone in this room knows that right now in Congress, in both houses of Congress, they're talking about reconciling the two bills. So I was disappointed in that, and in fact I think that that was premature. He did make his pitch for additional federal funding, and so I'm glad that he will be joining Senator Steinberg and myself, because we have certainly been fighting that good fight to make sure that California brings more than 76 cents back a year. And so I'm going to look forward to working with him on that. I'm glad that he made a pledge around education. I do have a few pledges of my own. I want to pledge that we're not going to hurt cities and counties anymore, that we will invest in transportation. And also, I want to pledge that we are not going to further shred the safety net. It's great to say we're going to have a firewall around education, but we cannot cut the safety net for the most vulnerable Californians anymore. But in short, I think if he continues with this tone, it's going to be a promising start to the governor's last year. Thank you very much.